Good morning and welcome back to No Mischief Garage. My name is Luke, and today what we're doing is introducing you to, well, it's not a new member of the fleet, but it's back in friendly territory again, and it's got a lot of work. This is my 1976 Plymouth Duster. It's technically my first car, and yet I have never driven it because, well, some of it's pretty self-explanatory, but we'll get into it. It's obviously no engine, no trans. There was one when I got it. Somebody had blown up the small block and automatic that was in it and just stuffed something in out of a truck. It wasn't even sitting properly in the mounts. But then when they did that, they threw a tarp over the car and threw a tire right on the windshield to, hold the tarp down like you do. So the windshield was smashed when I got it. It was actually all one color. I believe it's the KY5 or something like that. Golden Fawn. Um, Contemplating taking it back to that when I get there. It's grown on me since I got the car. Anyway, so I don't remember how old I was when I bought this. It's been over 15 years ago at least. And I've done about everything wrong, I think, on this as a stupid kid that you probably could. I do still have the bumpers and everything, but every inch of wiring is gone. You can't see it, but there's a hole in the floor that I went a little crazy with the Sawzall, and that's going to be a pain to get patched up now. Anyway, a lot of these are parts that came with the car, which has been toting them around all this time. The seats that were in it were out of a B body. They never actually fit, and my understanding was it was a rather large fella that had the car before I did, and because the bolts didn't line up, sitting on it actually collapsed a section of the floor, punched a hole, tore the steel. Anyway, it's been stored various garages and shops around here for years, and frankly, it's a bit embarrassing. It's definitely disheartening, especially knowing what I know now and how many things I screwed up on and how many things I made so much more work for myself on. But it's the price you pay, I suppose. Chrysler original. Well, that used to work to get into the trunk. Alright, well, there's a bunch of parts in there. Trunk floors are good. Quarters are good for the most part. I mean, I think there's a little bit right there. A lot of burnt rubber. This was a high school car. There's a lot of story behind it. Part of that story is that my mother and my father used to have nearly identical dusters, and this is actually his. It's the only one I have of them actually side by side. Hers was in a yellow that I still don't care much for, even though this tan has kind of grown on me. So when we went to buy this, It was actually pretty interesting. We found it, I think it was on Craigslist, and I believe maybe $700. And went to look at it. We were going to be buying my first car, and I'd looked at all kinds of things, various, you name it, Trans Ams, Camaros. The only thing was it had to have a V8 and rear wheel drive. That was the stipulation. So eventually we found this Duster and went to look at it, and when we pulled into the driveway, the first thing Mom noticed was the hole in the hood. She remembers that distinctly from his car all those years ago, even though he sold it right before I was born for his Cuda, which he does still have. Anyway, so we continue to look it over, and it had that blown up 360, I think, with truck transmission, truck engine, and everything. And it was kind of a mess. It still had the carpet and everything then. Continued to look it over, and she just decided for sure that was at least the hood off of his car. And long story short, we bought it, brought it home, and I started to cut into it. And when I did that, I found underneath the carpet under the passenger seat actually his high school ID and a pen from U-Haul that he worked at the time. So at that point I knew for sure that it was his car, and what are the chances the car goes missing all those years ago, or changes hands, that is, and I still wind up with it somehow unknowingly. Anyway, so in the process of taking the carpet out, that's when I found that ID and everything. I'm glad I took the carpet out, because it probably saved most of, at least what was left of, the floor. In here, passenger floorboard's in really good shape. Just some surface stuff. Some of the mistakes I made, besides the wiring harness, as you can see, I stripped a lot of the seam sealer out, and it's coming back to haunt me. So I also appear to have lost most of these plugs and everything. Well, there's one. There's none in the driver's side. For the drain, that's okay, we can find something. That is the original seat, thankfully. Look at what I did to this poor windshield trim. Unbelievable. It's probably just about unobtainium now. At least for me. I'm cheap. Anyway, gotta grab the key. Hang on. It might work. I'm a little concerned because I don't know where the dash is. I'm hoping it didn't get stolen when this was up in storage. Gotta love that sound. So it looks like, I think that was a truck shroud. I remember it being a problem back. Nothing ever fit, but like I say, it wasn't even in the mounts. I see wheel cover centerpieces. I see the speedometer. That looks like it's probably the dash. Obviously my interior panels, which hopefully I can save, at least use to make templates, and we'll redo. Fan motor and heater core. Pretty sure I broke that in the process of taking out, and I'm regretting that now. For sure. For sure. Somewhere in here is also, I don't remember if it's B&M or Hurst or whatever, but a speed stick. Ratchet shifter, whatever. And I don't care what anybody says. I wanted one of those on here for a long time, so I'm going to mount that before we're all done here. Still haven't decided what color I want it. I do really like the look of the gray. I know that's primer, but I'm thinking some sort of gunmetal also. Anyway, we'll go over to the other side and you can see the butchery up close. Not too close though, because like I say, I am quite embarrassed of it. I don't want to talk about it. You can see why. Okay, that's enough of that. Moving on. Right there. That is where the hole punched through the floor, like I was telling you. So, honestly, it was a nice car before I went and screwed it up. This would be, I mean, the quarters aren't in bad shape. There's a little bit right into here, like you would normally find. And, I mean, this one's kind of shot up. It wasn't when I got it. But, like I say, trunk floors are good, even though you can't see. I did look from underneath. You can kind of see a little bit. I mean, it's still got shiny paint. So, passenger floorboard's fine. Firewall's fine. And the pillars are fine, except for where I screwed up. Took away the body filler. Which, even that is not in terrible shape, but I seriously need to unscrew that up. Oh yeah, it was originally a vinyl top car too, so the fact that none of this is really super screwed is kind of impressive, especially after my butchery. Anyway, so that's it. It's been a long time coming. I don't know when I'm actually going to be able to work on it. I've gathered a whole bunch of the parts for it. Obviously, I've been gathering for years. The wiring harness situation sucks. I don't know if I'm going to buy a painless plug and play or if I'm going to cut something out of the donor rig. The donor rig is not an A-body by any means, so I really don't know what I'm going to do. But it's been so long now, I can't afford to rush through it and make it worse. We'll get it together.